Ladies and gentlemen, there is a version of you that keeps sabotaging your dreams, whispering that you're not enough, pulling you back every time you try to move forward. Today we face that enemy. Today we deal with the weak version of yourself, the one keeping you stuck, afraid, and unfulfilled. You were not born to live small, to hide in fear, or to be a prisoner of your past. There is a war happening inside you every day, a war between who you are and who you are called to be. And the enemy is not always out there. Sometimes it's the voice inside, the voice that doubts, that hesitates, that settles. But today we declare war on that voice. Not with hate, but with truth. Not with fists, but with fire from within. There's a reason you keep circling the same mountains. A reason you keep starting and stopping, making promises and breaking them, dreaming big and quitting halfway. That reason isn't always your environment. It isn't your job, your background, your past, or even the people who let you down. The greatest battle you're fighting is within you. The weak version of yourself isn't just some abstract idea. It's the voice inside that says, stay where it's safe. It's the presence that convinces you that average is enough, that there's no point in trying again, that people like you don't win, don't succeed, don't rise before you can ever overcome anything on the outside you have to come to terms with what's broken on the inside. There's an enemy within that has worn your name, walked in your shoes, and disguised itself as your personality. But it's not you. It's the shell of who you became when you gave up. It's the version of you that grew from compromise, from woundedness, from the lies you accepted as truth. And every time you say, I'm just not good at that, or maybe this is just who I am, that version grows stronger. It gains territory in your life not because it's powerful, but because you've allowed it to live unchecked. You must recognize that there's a line between your true self, the one made for greatness, with purpose burning in your bones, and the lesser self, the one that was shaped by fear and comfort. And if you're not intentional, that weaker self becomes your default setting. You wake up every day with the potential to move forward, but instead you move in circles. You were meant to break cycles, not repeat them. But how can you break what you won't confront? There are parts of your identity that didn't come from truth, they came from survival. From what you had to become when you felt unloved. From how you adapted when no one believed in you. From the scars you carry from people who never apologized. And now those layers have hardened around your soul and started whispering lies like, this is who you are now. But let me tell you something, just because you were broken doesn't mean you have to live broken. Just because you were weak doesn't mean you have to stay weak. Recognition is the first step toward transformation. You cannot kill what you won't face. You cannot heal what you keep excusing. Many people walk around carrying pain, fear, and limitations like their family heirlooms, refusing to let go because they've held them so long. But holding on doesn't mean it belongs. And just because something has been with you a long time doesn't mean it's part of you. You have to separate yourself from that inner imposter, the version of you that accepted average, that avoided challenges, that lived small to avoid failure. And you know what? That weak version shows up every time you're about to grow. Every time you're about to take a step of faith, every time you commit to something bigger, every time you dream again, that version creeps in and says, who do you think you are? That voice is not your friend. That voice is not your destiny. That voice is the enemy within, the weaker self that wants you to survive, not thrive. It wants you to keep living in what's familiar, even if it's painful, because at least it's predictable. But God didn't create you to be predictable. You weren't designed for stagnation. Deep inside, something in you knows this. That's why you get uncomfortable when you settle. That's why, even after achieving a little success, you feel empty because your soul knows there's more. But the weak version of you, it's terrified of more. It's scared of responsibility. It avoids accountability. It crumbles under discipline. And worst of all, it convinces you that mediocrity is holy humility. No, friend. There's nothing humble about playing small. There's nothing noble about living beneath your calling. The weak version of you is not just keeping you from your goals, it's keeping you from your purpose, from the people you're called to impact, from the life you're meant to live. That version might not scream or shout, it whispers. It distracts. It seduces you into scrolling your time away, sleeping your strength away, numbing your pain instead of healing it. And because it's quiet, you ignore it. But it's killing your potential one compromise at a time. You must look that version of yourself in the face and say, I see you, but you are not me, not anymore. That's the beginning of change, not when you get more followers, not when you get more motivation. Change begins when you get clarity, when you name the enemy within and refuse to let it drive your life. Another day, because the truth is, you've got greatness in you that the weak version of yourself is terrified of. That weak version knows that if you ever step into your true identity, it won't survive. So it fights with every excuse, every delay, every fear, but it only wins if you let it. That's why recognizing the weak self is urgent. This is not just a mindset battle. This is spiritual. Because when you decide to grow, you're not just improving your life, you're becoming dangerous to everything that kept you small. You are rising to break generational patterns. You are refusing to let fear write your story. And you're declaring enough. Asterisk once you recognize the weak version of yourself, the battle doesn't end there, it begins. Recognition is only the first step. The real war is in the daily choices you make. You can't just wish the weaker version away, you have to kill it. And killing it doesn't mean shouting affirmations into the mirror or waiting for motivation to strike. It means starving it. It means intentionally denying it access to your energy, your time, your thoughts, and your habits. The weak version of you doesn't die through inspiration. It dies through starvation. Every moment of your life, you are feeding one of two versions of yourself. The strong one, the disciplined, focused, bold version who's walking in purpose, or the weak one, the distracted, lazy, fearful version who's clinging to comfort. The one you feed will dominate your life. You don't need more motivation, you need more discipline. Discipline is the diet that starves the weak and strengthens the strong. Discipline says, I don't feel like it, but I do it anyway. Discipline silences the voice of weakness with action. It teaches your flesh that feelings don't run this house, conviction does. You cannot live strong while feeding weakness. And what does feeding weakness look like? It looks like procrastination. It looks like making excuses for why you're not moving forward. It looks like binging on distractions, saying yes to every impulse, numbing yourself with entertainment, and running from the hard things you know you should face. Weakness loves ease, it loves delay, it thrives in inconsistency. But strength, true strength, is forged in the fire of discomfort. You don't grow strong by doing what feels good. You grow strong by doing what's necessary. You have to develop the courage to say no to your lesser self, to reject the invitation to stay in bed a little longer, to stop negotiating with your distractions, to choose the workout when you'd rather rest, to open the book when the screen is calling, to speak truth when silence feels safer. Every choice, no matter how small, is a vote. And each vote either elects your stronger self into power or hands control back to your weaker self. You don't lose the war in a single day, but you do lose it one skip decision at a time. Weakness is a parasite. It will grow as long as you keep feeding it. It will eat away at your potential. It will convince you that you can delay your purpose until tomorrow. But tomorrow is a lie weakness loves to tell. Tomorrow keeps people stuck in average. Tomorrow is where dreams go to die. If you're not acting on it today, chances are you won't act on it tomorrow. You've got to kill that comfort-driven narrative and understand this truth. Change only happens when you confront the hard thing now, not later, not someday, not when you feel ready now. The weak version of you finds its strength in your routines. That's why you have to attack the routine itself. Break the cycle that's been feeding your weakness. Wake up earlier, get uncomfortable, choose discipline over indulgence. This is not about self-hate, it's about self-respect. You don't kill the weak version of you because you hate yourself. You kill it because you love what you're becoming too much to let anything stop you. You love your calling too much. You love your future too much. You love your people, your purpose, your soul too much to let weakness keep you stuck, and that strong version of you? It's already inside you, waiting to be fed. It's the one who stands up and keeps going after. Failure. The one who doesn't need applause to keep moving. The one who shows up when it's hard. The one who prays when they feel empty. The one who fights when it would be easier to quit. That version isn't born out of perfect circumstances. It's born out of pain. It's born out of persistence. It's born out of fire. And it's hungry for growth, for victory, for truth, but it won't grow on its own. You've got to feed it. And how do you feed it? You feed it every time you keep a promise to yourself. Every time you get up when you fall. Every time you hold yourself accountable instead of blaming others. Every time you pray when it hurts. Every time you fast from the noise. Every time you say no to temptation. Every time you serve when no one sees it. Every time you rise above your emotions and respond from purpose instead of impulse. That's how the strong version of you gets. Fed by doing what your flesh doesn't want, but your spirit demands. This isn't about perfection. You will stumble, you will get weary. But don't confuse weakness with rest. Rest is necessary. Weakness is choosing not to rise. And rest doesn't mean escape, it means refueling for the next round. But too many people use rest as a disguise for quitting. Don't fall into that trap. Learn the difference. Feed your strength with rest, not with excuses. The more you feed your strength, the more the weak voice loses its volume. The more consistent you are, the more that internal critic begins to sound like static. It doesn't vanish overnight. But over time, you realize that the strong version of you no longer whispers, it leads. It no longer needs to be forced, it becomes your new nature. You wake up with hunger, with discipline, with vision. You stop needing outside validation because something inside you burns too bright to be dimmed. This is how transformation happens, not by waiting for strength to appear, but by becoming the kind of person who trains for it daily, the kind of person who knows the cost of feeding weakness and refuses to pay it again, the kind of person who's not just trying to survive, but to rise, to fight, to win, to walk in divine power. Because when the strong version of you is fed, it doesn't just change your life, it changes everything and everyone around you. It becomes contagious. It becomes a movement. It becomes the new standard for how you live, lead, and love. Asterisk, no one becomes strong without going through something. There is no shortcut around pain, no fast track to growth, no elevator to the top. The truth is simple, but hard to accept. Pain is the doorway you must walk through to become who you were created to be. The weak version of yourself doesn't want you to hear this. That version of you avoids pain at all costs. It runs when things get hard. It hides when pressure rises. It breaks down at the first sign of discomfort. But the strong version of you, the one buried deep inside, knows that pain is not your enemy. Pain is your training ground. Pain is the weight that builds your inner muscle. Without it, you stay soft, you stay small, you stay fragile. The process of becoming strong is painful because it requires shedding parts of you that no longer serve you. It's painful because it forces you to face everything you've ignored, denied, or buried. It's painful because you must let go of who you were to step into who you're meant to be. But that pain is not punishment. It's preparation. Every person who has ever accomplished anything worthwhile had to walk through pain. Not once, not for a season, but continually. It's not a single test, it's a lifestyle. Because life will challenge you again and again. And each time it will demand more from you than the time before. You don't just wake up strong one day. You become strong by showing up in your pain, by refusing to let it define you, and by choosing to grow through it instead of merely surviving it. The problem is, we've been taught to believe that pain means something is wrong. We think if it hurts, we must be failing, but growth hurts. Change hurts. Healing hurts. And still, those are the very things we need most. What's broken doesn't get better by being ignored. What's weak doesn't grow by being left alone. It grows by being tested, pressured, pushed beyond what's comfortable. The strong version of yourself is hiding beneath the layers of comfort. You've built around your life, and the only way to reach it is through the fire. You have to be willing to endure the fire of transformation. Fire burns, yes, but it also purifies. The heat may be intense, but it melts away what doesn't belong. It exposes the impurities, the false identities, the hidden insecurities. Pain reveals what's real. It strips away your pride, your excuses, your fragile ego, and it forces you to ask hard questions. Who am I when no one's watching? What do I believe when things fall apart? Will I still move forward when it feels like everything is against me? Pain also reveals what you truly value. When everything is taken from you, when you're in the dark, when the applause is gone, when the doors are closed, what remains? That's where your true strength is either built or exposed. And if you walk through that pain with purpose, if you lean into it instead of running away, it transforms you. It gives you a depth of character that nothing else can give. You become solid not in appearance but in spirit. You become someone who cannot be shaken, but most people don't get there. Most people avoid the pain. They numb it, bury it, distract themselves with comfort, and call it peace. But avoidance only delays the inevitable. What you don't face today becomes a storm you will meet tomorrow, and usually with more force. You don't outgrow the pain by waiting. You outgrow it by working through it. And as you work through it, something happens. You begin to realize that pain isn't trying to destroy you. It's trying to awaken you. You realize that your past pain wasn't pointless. The betrayal, the rejection, the failure, the loss, none of it was wasted. Each scar is a reminder that you made it. Each wound is proof that you're still standing. And every time you refuse to let pain keep you down, you build something inside. A view that the world can't take away. You build power. Not the power to control others, but the power to rise, to endure, to lead, to inspire, to carry others through their own fire, because you know what it's like to walk through flames and come out refined. But you won't get that power by being passive. You have to be active in your pain. You have to wrestle with it. You have to mine the meaning from it. You have to let it teach you. And most of all, you have to trust that something greater is happening in the midst of it. Because when you're in pain, it's easy to feel like God is far away. But often, He's never been closer. He's not rescuing you from the fire, He's walking with you through it. He's not stopping the storm, He's giving you the strength to endure it. Because He knows what you're becoming is far greater than what you're going through. The strongest people you admire today didn't get there by accident. They were forged in pain. They were rejected, misunderstood, underestimated. They had every reason to quit, and still they didn't. They used their pain as fuel, and so can you. You don't have to let your pain make you bitter. It can make you better. You don't have to let it harden your heart. It can deepen your wisdom. You don't have to let it define your identity. It can refine your purpose. You've been praying for strength. You've been asking to become the person you were created to be. Well, this is the answer. This is the path, through the pain, through the fire, through the valley. And if you stay the course, if you don't numb the process, you'll come out on the other side not just stronger, but unrecognizable, reborn, renewed, and ready for everything that once intimidated you. Because you will no longer be afraid of pain. You will no longer run from the discomfort. You will understand that every tear, every trial, every moment of suffering was not just a test, it was a transformation. There comes a moment in every life where a line must be drawn, not around you, but within you. A sacred, personal decision that says, I refuse to be who I was. I refuse to live one more day beneath my potential. That line doesn't come when everything is perfect. It comes in the middle of the chaos. It comes when you're tired, when you failed, when you're tempted to go back to what's familiar. But in that moment, you hear something greater, calling your name, not an echo from the past, but a cry from your future, a divine tug from deep within. It's your higher calling, and it demands more than belief. It demands movement, bold movement, unapologetic movement. There is a version of you waiting on the other side of your obedience. Not your comfort, not your potential, not even your dreams, your obedience. Because your calling will not come to life until you act on it. You can pray for it, talk about it, write it in a journal, manifest it all day long, but until you move, it remains dormant. And that's where the weaker version of yourself tries to take the reins. It whispers doubt. It inflates the risks. It reminds you of every failure, every fear, every insecurity. But your calling isn't asking for permission from your past. It's calling for boldness from your present. Boldness isn't a feeling, it's a decision. You don't wait until you feel brave. You step while afraid. You speak while uncertain. You build while shaking. You show up when your mind is telling you to shrink back. That's what separates those who talk about change and those who live it. The strong version of you doesn't live in the realm of theory. It lives in the territory of action, and it doesn't wait for conditions to be perfect. It steps into the unknown, into the storm, into the very thing that seems impossible because it understands that faith without motion is just noise. There is power waiting for you, but it can only be accessed when you move beyond your comfort zone. You cannot walk in power and stay in safety. The two do not coexist. God did not create you to play it safe. He created you to walk on water. But walking on water requires stepping out of the boat, and the boat feels secure. It feels logical, but it is limited. Your higher calling isn't in the boat, it's in the deep. And the deep will test everything. You thought you knew. It will require you to depend on something greater than your ability, your faith, your purpose, your calling. When you step boldly into that calling, people may not understand you. They may question you. Some will distance themselves. But you weren't called to be understood. You were called to be set apart, to lead, to blaze trails, to disrupt mediocrity. Your assignment will confuse the crowd because it wasn't given to them, it was given to you. That's why you must learn to be faithful in the silence, in the season where no one claps for you, where progress is slow, where no one sees your effort. That's where your identity is forged. That's where your character is proven. That's where your boldness is tested not on stages, but in the secret place. Boldness is not just for public moments, it's for private decisions. The decision to wake up earlier. The decision to stay committed to your word. The decision to turn off distractions. The decision to forgive. The decision to give when you want to keep. The decision to keep building when nothing seems to be working. These quiet acts of obedience become the foundation upon which bold lives are built. You don't need a microphone to live boldly. You just need consistency. You just need alignment. You just need to keep walking even when your emotions beg you to stop. And understand this: your boldness isn't just for you. It's generational. It's contagious. When you step into your higher calling, you give others permission to do the same. You become a lighthouse, a disruptor of generational fear, a breaker of cycles. You begin to carry weight, not the kind that burdens you, but the kind that builds others. People will start to see something different in you, not just your words, but your walk. Your energy shifts, your authority deepens, your presence begins to shift atmospheres. That is the fruit of living boldly. It's not found in applause, it's found in impact. But you cannot walk in that impact until you shed what no longer fits you. The weak version of you is too small for your higher calling. Its habits, its beliefs, its language, it cannot carry the weight of where you're going. That's why you feel the discomfort. That's why everything in you is restless when you settle, because your soul knows the difference between comfort and calling. It knows when you're playing small, and it will keep pressing you, agitating you, even breaking you until you step into what you were truly made for. You don't need more time, you need more courage. You don't need to wait for everything to be figured out, you need to start with what you have. Your higher calling is not for some distant future, it begins the moment you say yes. The moment you stop entertaining the voice of fear. The moment you stop tolerating delay. The moment you walk like your name carries power. Because it does. You were not created to be invisible. You were not created to hide behind excuses. You were created to shine, to lead, to influence, to change the environment wherever your feet touch. But that can only happen when you rise in boldness. And boldness doesn't eliminate fear, it overrules it. Boldness doesn't promise ease, it guarantees resistance, but it also guarantees growth. It guarantees alignment. It guarantees that you will look back one day and see a trail of breakthrough where there was once bondage, a trail of faith where there was once fear, a trail of discipline where there was once doubt, because boldness builds legacy. And legacy is never built by those who play it safe. Legacy is built by those who refuse to bow to their lesser self. Those who hear the whisper of their higher calling and say yes even when their knees tremble. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need a title. You don't need everyone to approve. You just need to decide. Decide that the weak version of you no longer gets the final say. Decide that your life is too valuable to be wasted on comfort. Decide that today is the day you walk forward, not with certainty, but with conviction, because that's what boldness is. And that's what your higher calling demands. The journey to becoming the strongest, most powerful version of yourself is not found in comfort, applause, or temporary motivation. It's forged in fire. It's built in quiet, disciplined decisions. It's carved out through pain, sacrifice, and the courage to walk away from what no longer serves you. There is a weak version of you that has lived far too long feeding off your fears, your doubts, your insecurities, and your delays. That version has worn your face, spoken your voice, and made you believe you were limited. But the truth is that version is not your identity, it's your enemy, and it must die. The enemy within cannot live where purpose thrives. You must recognize it, starve it, confront the pain it has hidden behind, and rise beyond its reach. Because what's waiting on the other side of that internal death is resurrection. A rebirth of the you that was always there, the disciplined you, the focused you, the fearless you, the version created with fire in your bones and purpose in your steps. You are not here to survive life. You are here to live it fully, boldly, and without apology, to lead, to impact, to break cycles, to carry something eternal. And that kind of life doesn't come from wishing, it comes from warring. Every day is a new opportunity to kill what is weak and awaken what is strong. This is not just self-improvement. This is transformation. This is spiritual. This is war. And if you've heard that voice inside calling you higher, now is the time. No more delay, no more excuses. No more bowing to the lesser version of yourself. Choose discipline over desire. Choose growth over ease. Choose pain with purpose over pleasure with regret. Because when you kill that weak version of yourself, you don't lose who you are, you find who you were always meant to be.